Welcome, listeners, to episode 20 of the Running Guy podcast, where I aim to provide informative content and interviews with elite athletes from around the world, like in today's episode, where I'm chatting to a previous guest of the show back in episode 9, who has just set the Australian fastest men's marathon qualifying time for the Tokyo Olympics in a very cold and wet Lake Biwa, running a personal best time of 2:10:48. Welcome to the Running Guy podcast once again, Liam Adams.
Cheers for having me.
Oh, mate. Really happy to be talking to you, mate. You got to be a happy boy, mate. 2:10:48.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, very happy. It kind of felt like the running gods were against me, and yeah, just managed to get a good solid time out there.
Yeah,
very happy.
Finally, a 2:10 guy, mate. It's sort of been on the cards there for a while, mate. But yeah, it must feel fantastic to finally get it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt like I should have been running 2:10. Yeah, quite a few years ago, but I don't know. I just seem to always have bad luck. So yeah, definitely good to be finally there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, I sort of want to talk about training block leading to Biwa, but I'm sure the listeners like me are pretty eager to hear about race day, so we'll sort of dive straight into that. Now, it was freezing cold and raining. They call you out on the track for the start. You're all sort of jumping around trying to stay warm and not seize up, and then the starter raises his pistol and all your fingers hover over the start button on your watches, and then what happens, mate? Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be actually all right conditions for the race. During the week leading up, it was saying it was going to be roughly 10 to 12 degrees. There's going to be a little bit of rain, but no wind and stuff like that. When I woke up in the morning, I could hear from my hotel room, I was on about level 19 or level 20. It sounded like waves were crashing on the lake, and looked out the window, and it was probably the first time I'd seen waves crashing on the just the edge of the lake. So yeah, I went, grabbed my phone, looked at what the conditions were going to be, and the wind had increased, and it was raining a lot more than it was supposed to. So yeah, we had absolutely shocking conditions. Yeah, that start, it was strange. They held us for so long. We didn't have a clue why they were holding us. The guy had his hand up like he was going to fire, so we're all standing there for about maybe 5 or so minutes. We got called up to the line earlier, but we were standing in the get ready set position for about 5 minutes. And yeah, we didn't know what was happening. And then they called us off the track after that. And during that time, my back was stiffening up because it was just so wet and cold. The wind was hitting it. And we went underneath. They said that they were going to start the race in 10 minutes time. So a lot of people were trying to find heaters and stuff like that to keep warm. And I don't know, I went on a search to try and find a poncho. And yeah, found a poncho that someone had just discarded, and used that to try and keep warm, and kept that on for a couple of K in the first few K because it was pretty cold.
Yeah, look, I chose to run on the treadmill that morning, mate, so I could watch the live stream that was on YouTube, and yeah, I was watching all that unfold, and yeah, I sort of had a bit of a chuckle, and all you guys are having a bit of a chuckle about it. I guess if anything, it sort of eased some of the pre-race nerves, you know what I mean? But yeah, I saw you come back out with a poncho and made your way back into lane 1, mate. Get right into that lane 1 position. And,
yeah.
And then you took off, kept wearing it, and then it was like a couple of Ks in, I saw you sort of ditch it, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was when they first got us out on the track, there was an order that we were supposed to be in.
Oh, okay.
And my number put me in, I think, about the 3rd row, and I was like just off the left. And it was a pretty good position, and I was very happy with that. But once we came back on, I'm just like, oh, I need to get this spot. And there wasn't much fighting for the position, so it's kind of good. I knew that it was kind of chaotic, that first 600 meters, because we do a lap at the track and then out of the track. So if I'm on the inside and I'm right up the front, I'm going to be right up there with the pace. And a few guys tried to run straight into lane 1, and I just held my position. So I just put my hand up so that anyone who ran into me ran straight into my arm. So held my position well, and yeah, just sat in, had a good sit.
Yeah. No, it's good. You're sort of up the front early on there the front six, I guess, and they were running sort of 207 pace. So I think they were dropping low
Yeah,
303 averages.
yeah.
Um,
They for that first K, they actually went out pretty slow.
yep.
I think I saw on the clock on the car said something like about a 3:11 first K or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So I think the pacemakers must have been under instruction because they were supposed to do 3-minute Ks, and everyone was told not to go ahead of the pacemakers.
Mm-hmm.
And the first K was in 3:11, so I think they were instructed to slow it down because pretty much that 20 minutes or so that we had waiting out in the cold,
Mm.
we'd pretty much rendered our warm up useless. So
Yep.
I think we were kind of slowly building into it. And once that happened, they started ramping it up probably after about 5K, they started running 3-minute Ks. And then after that, they were trying to make up the seconds that they lost at the start. So I think they were dropping maybe 257s, 255s from about 15K onwards for a bit. So yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought that
Yeah.
pace was too hot for me.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to ask that. Yeah, they started showing the 1K splits, and yeah, there was some 258s popping up probably before the 10K mark. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
you seem to be sort of up there. I mean, there's a good little group. You're sort of in the front line, like I said, then slowly sort of made your way to the rear of that front pack, up to it. You're still there for about 7 or 8Ks, possibly. You know more than me,
yeah.
and then you sort of eventually just slowly start to drop off the back there. Was that just the decision that okay, they're starting to drop some sub threes? I better do the smart thing and run my pace, or did you ever think maybe I should stick with them for longer, or what was the sort of mindset there?
Yeah, well, that was definitely running through my head at the time. I knew that the pace had picked up and I was feeling pretty good. Um, and I think I was with him. I was kind of slowly going backwards in the pack,
Mm,
trying to keep my own pace. And I think it might have been around the 15K mark where it was just getting a little bit too quick. And I thought, there's people started to be spat out the back of the pack, and I thought maybe that they were also going to think of doing what I was doing, as in like try and run your own
mm,
pace
mm,
and try and keep it even. But and that was the plan. I thought, well, I've got the two options: go with the pack or run my own pace. And I thought, all right, run my own pace because I could blow up pretty hard and just completely stuff up my chances of trying to qualify. So I went to my pace and found some people around me which were running the same pace as me, which I thought were running the same pace. And I don't know, I kept finding myself finding that their pace, they had pretty much been spat out the back because they're blown up. They
mm.
weren't trying to run it even. So
Sure.
um, the thing with this race, and I guess it might be a lot of Japanese running, they go out a bit kamikaze, so a bit too quick at the start, and they blow up pretty hard.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um, I think the story that I've heard for this race is there's a lot of guys trying to run a fast half marathon,
Mm-hmm.
and that if they run a fast half marathon, it helps them get into these Ekiden relay teams, their corporate teams. So I think their emphasis is trying to run a fast split through halfway, and then after that they blow up. But the Japanese culture and that um, it's get to that line at all costs. So
Yep.
you see some guys blowing up pretty hard, and you think that, oh geez, maybe they should be off the side of the course. Some guys are limping pretty hard. They're like, yeah, you think they're not going to make it, but they'll
Mm-hmm.
run until they can't run. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they get to that finish line at all costs. So
Yeah.
um,
And they have cut-off
yeah,
periods along the way, though, don't they? So if they do blow up too
they
hard, they're going to
did.
get pulled off, aren't they?
Yeah, and one of the Australians, unfortunately, um, they were stopped by one of the cut-offs. So they were running a smart, even race.
Mm.
They were on their time that they wanted to hit, but the cut-off bus came through and stopped him. So apparently he was 6 seconds over the cut-off time, which strangely, their cutoff bus goes pretty much the same style as their style of running, so it goes out faster than the average pace. So if you're running an average pace, I think the cutoff might have been about 230 pace to 40k, and then you could probably walk it in after that. But before then, it was something like the cutoff time, maybe at 15k, was equivalent to about 225, 226 marathon pace. So they calculate that you go out hard and that you blow up. So it was unfortunate that one of the Australian guys got pulled from the race, because he said that he was actually feeling good and like he was running to the pace he wanted, and just didn't account for that that bus coming through quicker than the cutoff pace. So
so
it's
basically
a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, forcing the runners to sort of go through that first half quicker than they normally would, rather than like run an even race. You're sort of forced to run through it quicker, and then it gets a little bit more generous towards the end of the marathon.
Exactly. So it's not really rewarding the guys who run it even and run it smart. It's kind of trying to force people to run faster or out of their comfort zone. And
maybe it's been tailored for the way the Japanese run it then.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Now,
it was unfortunate. Yeah.
It is. It definitely is. Yep. So when I was watching the TV, you came off that front group. I saw you sort of looking over your shoulder a couple of times, probably wondering, what's sort of happening behind you. If there's any sort of little packs to run with. So I was sort of hoping that another small chase pack would form, but I couldn't see because we lost view of you eventually. But did that ever happen? Or because I was worried that you're going to be stuck out there on your own in those terrible conditions and make it really hard. Like, did you have people to run with? Did you get a small pack at any stage?
Well, there was small packs forming that were coming off that front pack.
Yeah, but they weren't running an even pace.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that when I first made the decision, yes, I need to probably run my own pace here, because that pace is getting a bit too hot, and it's probably going to be detrimental to me qualifying for the Olympics. So I made the decision to pull off to run my own pace, and kind of tried to work with some guys which had fallen off the pack too. And I felt controlled and running smoothly, and I thought that they were on pace, but they actually weren't. So they were getting spat out the back because they'd blown up. So I worked with the pack, and then realised that they were going too slow. So I'd make an effort to run down and chase down the next pack and try and work with them. And then eventually I'd work out they were going too slow. And this was pretty much happening right up until the 17k mark. And I was like, this feels like we've slowed down a bit here. So at the 17k mark, I split my watch and just kept running with the pack, and then split it again at 18k. And I think it was about a 3:11 or a 3:12k for that. I'm just like, I can't continue with this pack because it's just going too slow, and we're kind of running into the wind at that stage of the race. And I just knew that I had to go from the 18k mark, and I was going to be solo after that. So from the 18k mark onwards, it was just about running down people and just running past them and trying to stick to pace and stuff like that. So
are you sort of running on feel there? I mean, you've got to look at your watch every now and then, but are you sort of keeping an eye on how you're going through those 1k splits, or not looking at every 1k, just sort of knowing that you're sort of holding the pace?
Well, from after that 18k, I started splitting my watch every couple of k, just to kind of see how I'm tracking, and if I'm running to roughly the pace that I wanted, or if I'm getting a bit too excited and running a bit too hard, or I need a bit of a kick in the bottom to try and get my pace going again. So I was splitting my watch a lot after that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Do you know
um,
what your FICO splits were, or what you went through halfway in, or?
I think my halfway split was 64-50.
Okay. Yep.
So just a little bit under 210 pace.
Yep. And how were you feeling then? You still felt in control? Felt pretty good?
Yeah, I felt pretty good going
Yep.
through halfway.
Mm.
And I thought, all right, I need to start picking it up and trying to um, get going again, just because we'd slowed down a fair bit. And then, yeah, I kind of knew that last half was going to be into the wind, and especially after the 27K mark, it was all back to the track, straight into the wind. So I knew it was going to be a battle. So I just knew that I couldn't leak any more time after that 18K mark. So
Mm. Mm. Yep.
yeah.
And did you sort of have any rough patches out there, like when you started to sow the seeds of doubt, or the energy levels were pretty consistent?
Oh, definitely. There's definitely patches where I felt like um, it wasn't going to be. Just going off my splits, I'm assuming that the markers must have been out, because I wasn't going to go off GPS, because all the boys, when we got on the start line, our GPSs weren't loading. And then I think Ben St. Lawrence, his GPS completely stuffed up. So I think he deleted um, his splits on Strava, and
Mm.
then just entered it manually off what he did. So yeah, I wasn't going to rely on GPS splits, so I was just splitting every K. And there's a few Ks in there which I think there's sections where it said that I was running about 303 pace, or down towards 3 minute pace, and then there's other splits which were saying 313, 311, and I was getting quite concerned about those 311, 313 splits. So
Yep. Yep.
there was definitely some doubt in there that I wasn't going to make it, and I knew that it was all the way back to the track in the wind. So
Mm.
yeah, I was definitely concerned that I wasn't going to get that time in the end.
Yeah, but that's I guess that's more the splits and the watch sort of telling you that maybe you're
Yeah,
not going to make the time. But as far as your energy goes, did you actually feel
and
like pretty good?
I felt, yeah, pretty good. I felt pretty even throughout the
Yeah,
whole race.
yeah,
Like I was keeping it a consistent pace, and
mm,
I
mm,
think going through my splits, I did keep it quite even, the pace.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, going through the splits, I think I was the fourth fastest over the last 15K or something like that. So
Okay, yep, yep, yep. That's good. So,
yeah,
so with about 5K to go, so I like watching the stream. Had no idea how you were travelling. So I was
yeah,
pretty excited to see that the now famous tradie fluorescent yellow singlet appear in the home straight with their clock, because they've just shown the clock and people coming in. I'm just looking in the distance, waiting to see this yellow singlet, and then there it
yeah.
is, and the clock still read 2:10, and so it was pretty exciting, mate. But did you ever dare to celebrate yourself with a few Ks out, or was you just stay focused and make sure you get that qualifier?
Oh, even with a few K to go, I was still panicking that I wasn't going to get the pace. I was doing all the calculations through my head,
Mm-hmm.
where I was sitting and what time I was on, and what time I needed to get certain splits or finishing times.
Mm,
And I think my last 2 or 3 Ks, I was running about maybe 310s, 315s, and I'd
mm,
done the calculations. I'm like, I need to get this last K going and try and work hard to get this last K
mm.
to put myself in that position, that number one spot to qualify. So
Yeah.
I got going again, and just made sure of it that I was going to get that time.
So once you hit the track, you're doing like 600 meters again, or do you just come straight in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another 600 on the track.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's like they kind of fence it off that you're running in maybe lane 5 to lane 8
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
when you first enter the track, and
Yeah. So that
you
means
go
that
around the
you get to
finish.
see the clock, and then you can do a quick calculation and know what you
Yeah,
can run
yeah,
400 in.
you,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So there
Mm,
was the clock there, and I think there was a clock with 200 to go as well.
mm,
And
mm, mm.
I'd done the calculations, and I kind of knew that I was in a good position to get that first qualifying spot. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah, no, I saw the little hip high fist pump and it sounded like shit,
yeah,
yes, oh yes, or something like that. I was trying to read your lips, but yeah, no, it was awesome, mate.
yeah. That's definitely what it was. I was kind of celebrating, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I've heard a few people pay out on people celebrating when they're coming in whatever position,
Ah,
15th
yeah,
or something position, or getting that qualifying standard. So I
yeah.
kept the fists down low and did a little celebration. Yeah,
Sometimes if the emotions take over, then it doesn't really matter, mate. Like sometimes they can be
yeah.
so emotional those marathon finishes, even for someone like you who's done a few. And but yeah, no, it's awesome. Look, you jumped from you may not be interested, but I love the facts that you jumped from 20th on the marathon all times list up to 11th, and you're in the fastest marathon by an Australian in 17 years. I think yeah, Nick Harrison ran 2:10:22 in over there in Biwa himself in '03.
Yeah.
So I know you're not really into sort of blowing your own trumpet, but it must be sort of very satisfying, you know, to finally run that 2:10 when, you know, we mentioned before many times previously you've been running that pace in marathons, you know, only to have something sort of go wrong, you know, thinking back to those qualifying races for Rio in 2016. So it must be just feeling awesome to finally get it done.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, just over the moon with it going right, and I guess like even like most races I kind of start getting blister issues or whatever else, and
Yeah.
this race I had no blister issues or toenail issues at all.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, it was just amazing to have things go right on the day.
Yeah. Did
Finally.
you stay out of the roof cavities for the weeks leading into it, mate?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of
Yeah.
had a little bit of time off work
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to train like those pros do, and yeah, I
Sure.
kind of had that week leading into Lake Biwa off. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, with your nutrition, mate, you got that down pretty well standard these days. You're not trialing anything different there. You
Um.
pretty much know what you're going to
Well,
do every marathon.
yeah, pretty much. I've got just I basically every drink station, which is the drink stations are usually each 5K, so
Mm,
5, 10, all the way through to the finish. So you got one at 40K, and I try and take a drink at every drink station. So one or two sips
mm.
isn't is enough.
Of a sports drink or
Um,
water.
Usually a sports drink. Maybe it used to be maybe gastrolite or hydrolyte
Mm,
mixed with like beetroot juice and stuff like that. But
mm, mm,
this was actually the first race that I used Morton.
okay.
So
Yep.
used that with a bit of beetroot juice and that. So yeah,
Okay.
that seemed to go quite well, and
Mm,
I was happy with how the nutrition went. There was maybe it was the I think it was the 35K drink station. I went to try and grab a drink, but they had put my drink in the middle of all these other drinks, and I didn't end up grabbing that. I tried to grab it, and then I think I knocked down half the table's drinks trying
okay.
to grab it. So,
Yeah, yeah. It
um,
happens.
yeah, it happens, and it is what it is, and
Mm,
that's the way I treated it. I tried to grab it because I wanted it or needed it,
mm,
and couldn't get it, so that was that.
mm,
And
mm.
then the last drink station, I opted not to get the drink just because it was touch and go. I
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure I got to that line,
yeah,
and
for sure.
I wasn't slowing down
Yeah,
in any section. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. So just the liquid calories, no gels or anything like that.
I did have. I think I had a gel at about the 15K mark. I just had two little two little bits of gel. I might have had another one at maybe the 25K mark too.
Mm,
So
mm.
um, just a tiny bit, mix it around the mouth,
Yeah,
and then get it down a little bit.
yeah,
Um, and I think at the 35K mark, I would have probably took on the gel again, but didn't get the drink, and
yeah,
it is what it is. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think that really affected my race. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, I was sort of interested to see, I don't know what feedback you've got on this. Obviously over the US Olympic qualifier in Atlanta, Nikes were handing out the alpha flyers and everyone was
Yeah.
wearing them. But at Biwa there, everyone's still wearing the old Next Percents, pinks and green shoes all over the place, and I couldn't spot one pair of alpha flies. You got any idea why that would
Oh,
be?
I would say that they're not readily available to everyone.
Mm.
So,
But I thought even those Nike
um,
Nike guys up front who are sponsored by them would be able to get a pair. You would think.
I did see about 3 or 4 alpha flies in the race,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was some guys up in the front pack which had them.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, others, from what I hear, they're pretty hard to get your hands on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
They're some of the Australian Nike sponsored athletes, apparently they had to work quite hard to try and get themselves a pair.
Mm.
But yeah, they're not really available or readily available at the moment.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So it's
um,
a supply thing rather than a choice of shoe thing at this
pretty
stage. Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of guys would have worn them, but
Okay.
yeah, they didn't have the chance to.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, and I guess that Olympic trial in the US, it's a bit of a sports marketing type of exercise to
Sure. Yep.
get the shoes on everyone's feet. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
can't believe everyone was offered a pair. That's a lot of pairs of shoes. With 800 pairs.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep. And I think quite a few people took their pairs of shoes, and at the moment you're kind of seeing them online,
I
and
was going to say that.
people are
Wait till on
selling them for
eBay.
like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I noticed that they're selling for about a bit over $1,000. So
Yeah. Yeah.
people are buying them for over 1,000, and I just can't justify
Nah. Nah.
paying $1,000 for a pair of shoes, which
Yeah.
you'll probably only get one marathon out of, and
Yeah.
maybe a couple of other 10K races out of it
Mm.
until you need to get a new pair. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna be spending that type of money on
Now
my
I
apprenticeship
couldn't
wage. So
I couldn't make out what you were wearing. Some black shoe. What would you wear that day?
I had the next percents on.
Ah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How I race, I wear the Chady singlet, and I just kind of black out all the other logos and
Oh,
whatever
okay.
else.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I blacked out my running shorts, which are Adidas running shorts
Fair enough.
and stuff like that. So, and same
Yeah.
with the shoes. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Oh well, hopefully someone comes knocking on the door, mate, and offers you some.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure, mate.
yeah.
Look, just one more thing in nutrition, just because the listeners love to hear about it. What do you generally eat the night before and the morning of, mate?
Generally, the night before, I'm kind of looking towards your traditional type of pasta. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that seems to be my choice of carbo load.
Yep.
But over in Japan, they didn't have many pasta restaurants where we were. So, and quite a few of the guys decided that they would prefer rice instead. So we went some rice dishes. It was we just mainly had plain rice, and I had a few things on the side to give it a little bit of flavour.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us didn't really have stomach issues. We usually, I don't know, you get the race nerves and stuff like that and need to go to the toilet a fair bit. But yeah, I think a lot of us, our stomachs were pretty settled. So I don't know, maybe there might be something to it. Maybe it might be better to have rice dishes instead of pasta in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that was my dinner, or the dinners that I had the 2 nights leading into the marathon. And usually I'm not a big fan of having breakfast the morning of a race, so I kind of don't want to run the risk of getting a stitch and having stomach problems. So when I get to a race, I'm kind of having, I'll usually put something beside my bed, and if I wake up in the night, I usually have like whatever it is. I think I had croissants, so every time I woke up the night before the race, I was having something to eat and trying to justify that as the reason why I woke up was to have something to eat. And
Okay.
usually I get back to sleep pretty quickly, but
Yep. Yep.
At Lake Biwa, I probably had one of the worst sleeps that I've had before a race in a very long time. So
Okay.
it didn't work. This little trick didn't work this
Okay.
time. So,
Yep. Yep. Oh well, the result
but
was
yeah,
there, mate. The
I
result.
think I think throughout the night I had about 5 or 6 croissants.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. So you caught up with the other Aussies while you're over there, before or after, or had a couple of.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So we had a bit of a group going into. I had a bit of a group message. I made a group message to everyone
Yep.
going into the race,
Okay.
and this was pretty early on when the coronavirus started, and I kind of suggested uh, to the boys that it might be best to try and not get a flight which goes through China, Hong Kong, and stuff like that. And if you can, maybe do just pay the extra $100 or $200 to kind of get a more direct flight. And pretty much everyone else had the same thoughts, and
Okay.
they
Yep.
wanted to fly direct too. So I sent that message, and then after that, we weren't sure of absolutely everyone who was doing Lake Biwa, but eventually you'd find out information about more people doing Biwa. So they were added to the group, and we were through that group. We're trying to organise accommodation, so who was sharing rooms with each other and stuff like that. So we were just sharing information and stuff like that whenever it come to hand. And like even when we're going to dinner, we'd just send a message what everyone was wanting and stuff like that. And we did do a lot of stuff together pre-race and post-race
Yeah. Okay.
as a group. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great group that we had, and met a few new guys, and yeah, they made it a really good, memorable trip for me.
Yeah. Oh, unreal, mate. All right. Let's go back to your training block leading in, mate. I guess when did that sort of start, and did you do anything different with your prep than you'd done previously?
Um, so yeah, I guess we'll go back to last time I spoke to you. So that was leading into Berlin Marathon. It was that week,
Yep.
and I was talking about the chest infection, and
Yep.
I'd basically said that I didn't feel like I was going to have a good run, and it was most likely going to end up in a DNF. And then that ended up being the case. So I kind of got to about 30k, um, fell off pace. I basically used that race as a free hit. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to run well, but I just had paid all that money to go to that race. So I thought it's a free hit to try and get the qualifying standard. And if I don't get the standard, then so be it. So, yeah, missed that free hit. And after that, I was just trying to get the health right. So had a couple of weeks off, and then tried to start building up and getting back into training again. And once I was starting to get back into it, we were absolutely getting smashed at work. So my mileage from about October through to the second week, so midway through December, I was probably only doing about 60k per week, just because I was absolutely smashed with work, exhausted, stressed out, and yeah, the running just had to take a back seat for that time of the year. And it was disappointing because I had races that I wanted to do through that period, and just couldn't get the training in to do it. So it was probably about December where I started training, and I got my first 100k week just after that, about mid-December. And I had put in an application for Lake Biwa. So that was the goal, to try and train up for that. But I just was behind in where I needed to be for training for that. So I kind of was looking for other races. Around that January period, I was kind of looking for other races that might be good or better options to try and qualify. But sent a few inquiries and got the big no. So I was kind of forced to do Lake Biwa, and that was going to be a really short prep. So, um,
So you're sort of trying to get another race over Lake Biwa just because Lake Biwa can have some average conditions and may not run fast? You're trying to find something a bit quicker, or?
nah, not necessarily. It was mainly because it was going to be a short prep, and I was going to have everything go right. And
Yeah, okay.
December, January period, as you know, it was absolutely horrible for running. I was early January. I was up in Sydney doing a bit of training out west, and every single day it was smoke. So it was just horrible conditions. There were some days where I actually didn't run just because the smoke was so bad. So I was panic mode early in January, thinking that if I get more days where it's just horrible with smoke, it's just really stopping my training, and I'm not going to get the quality I need to get to good shape for Lake Biwa. So I was looking forward to in the future towards other races and giving myself a little bit more time to get into some good fitness. So
Does
I
that
got
include
rejected.
London, or you couldn't get in?
Oh, I won't name the race.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, I was just looking at another big race where there's going to be guys shooting for that 210 or that Olympic qualifying standard, and I did have one that I wanted to do, but yeah, couldn't get in.
Sure.
So it is what it is, but that kind of forced me to just really knuckle down. And fortunately, I had organised to have 4 weeks off work and train like a professional. And once I knew that I wasn't getting into this other race, I kind of knuckled down and just had a month of training where everything went really well, and I was just doing crazy mileage and recovering really well. I think I averaged for the 4 weeks, it was 243.8k per week, which is probably the most I'd ever done before. That was the highest mileage week I'd ever done before, and I had averaged it for 4 weeks in a row.
Okay.
And just recovering fine, I guess. I guess my period leading into Gold Coast Marathon, where I was working full time and trying to get some good hard training in, I was probably only averaging about 180k weeks and working 45-hour weeks. So I felt like I was recovering a lot better training as a professional than what I was whilst working. So it was just a really good period, that 4 weeks, and that got me into pretty good shape. But after that 4 weeks of training at Falls Creek, I went back to the normal swing of things back in Melbourne. So back to reality, normal life. And basically, I've had a little 2 weeks where I was still training. I was nailing my sessions and did a couple of races and was running well, but I felt like I'd been beaten up. So it felt like even just my biceps in my arms, like I'd been punched in the arms. They were like corkies, and I was a little bit sore and a little bit flat. And I was still training well, but I was a bit concerned that I was a bit cooked. But the results leading into Biwa and the sessions that I was doing kind of said the opposite and said that I was in pretty good shape. So, I was confident with how I was going to run at Lake Biwa, but the conditions and a few other things kind of got my confidence down leading into it. So,
Did you have some guys you run with up at Falls, or you just up there mainly on your own, or?
I was by myself, so I was supposed to go up early January to Falls Creek, but it got evacuated the day that I was supposed to go up. So they postponed my accommodation until the mountain reopened. So when it reopened, I think there's probably about 12 guys which came back up the mountain to start training again, and about 5 or 6 of them cracked it after about 2 or 3 days just because of the smoke, and went back to Melbourne and stuff like that. So after about a week or two, I was pretty much solo. There was another runner, Ben Kelly, up there, but he was going back to and from Melbourne to do races and stuff like that. So a
Yep.
lot of our training wouldn't line up, but we did do a lot of jogs together and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it was kind of solo up there.
Oh, it's awesome. 240 a week at altitude. Yeah, that's fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
Look, 2:10:48, fastest qualifying time out of the Aussies, as I mentioned. Brett Robinson sitting in second there with that 2:10:55, and Jack Rayner 2:11:06 that they ran in London last year.
Yeah.
So that's the three fastest at the moment. Now, obviously, it's worth mentioning this coronavirus gig that's going around that's causing havoc all over the
Yeah.
globe. There's lots of marathons that were coming up that have been cancelled or postponed. There's still question marks over a lot of the ones coming up. So I guess for one, it feels good for you to actually have that spot sort of, get the QT and also have that number one spot there. Probably a bit
Yeah.
safer now than under normal circumstances, because it's going to be
Yeah.
difficult for those guys to find a race. I see Hamburger's cancelled. Czech Republic's just gone into 30-day lockdown. So
Yeah.
Prague may or may not be on the 3rd of May. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on all this?
Oh, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah,
Well, leading into our race, a few of the boys were quite concerned that our race was going to get cancelled because of what happened in Tokyo. So the mass participation got cancelled, but they did run the elites. But
yep,
I was there reassuring the boys that it's a elite race. There's less than 300 athletes in it, so
yep.
that it was most likely going to go ahead. Like we weren't going to have any issues. But from what I had heard, the organisers were under a fair bit of pressure to kind of cancel the race, but they didn't want to cancel it. They wanted the race to go ahead, and they implemented things like they had told the crowds not to line the streets. They were all supposed to stay indoors and stuff like that. They had cancelled the 1K race for the little kids, and then there was I think there was supposed to be a bit of a function after the race for everyone, and there were all the top 8 or top 10 were going to get their awards on stage, and it was going to be a little bit of a presentation and a function, but that got cancelled too. So they did that presentation directly after the race.
Yep.
But yeah, apparently it was looking highly unlikely for our race too. So we were very lucky to get our race done, and especially if it might have been a week later, with all these other races getting cancelled, it probably would have been cancelled too. So it's very unfortunate, and it's not good. You want everyone to have their opportunities to do their races and stuff like that. Some guys are spending a few $1,000s to try and get overseas to get these qualifying standards.
Yep.
Some get looked after, others have to pay their way. And even if they're not paying their way, they're spending 3 months or 4 months of training dedicated towards these races, and to have the opportunity to have their qualifying race for the Olympics taken away from them, their only opportunity is, that's horrible. So
Yep.
I pray that these other races go on and that these boys get their opportunity to do these races, but it's not looking good.
Well, maybe they'll do what they did with, London, do what they did with Tokyo, make it elite only, so at least, the boys get a chance.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that's the bare minimum we can get. Yeah.
I think they are looking towards that, and I hope that is the case. But there's a few other guys, a few other Australians, which they couldn't get into the elite field, so they won't get the opportunity to race. And then I've been hearing these stories that um, people will be trying to do the race regardless. So if they have it as an elite only race,
Mm.
people are still going to swarm the streets and run behind the elites. So
Right.
I think for that fact that people are going to do that, and I think if people do that, then the masses will do that. So you'll have at least maybe 5,000 people lining the streets and still running regardless, even though they're told not to.
Mm.
I think that'll put it in jeopardy for the elites at London. So
Mm.
hopefully, hopefully the coronavirus doesn't get worse there, and
Yeah.
they all get to run, the masses get to run, and all that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the confidence is going down day by day.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Just for the fact that it seems like everything is shutting down. Economies are all shutting down. Just and they're kind of trying to force people to only go to shops or out in public if they have to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and for the fact that this is all happening, I'm getting a bit nervous that the Olympics might not happen, which, yeah, will be devastating.
Oh, look. Yeah, definitely, mate. I didn't know if I really wanted to talk about that, but yeah. Oh man, look,
Yeah.
I can't think of
Well,
anything worse for the athletes and for yourself. But obviously Japan are holding very, very strong on that, and they don't even want to whisper the idea.
yeah,
Um,
well,
but yeah,
reality, it is a reality,
yes,
and it is a high possibility.
yep,
But from what I've seen over in Japan, they had a fair few cases early on,
mm,
but the way that they manage society and stuff like that, I think when I was there, 8 out of 10 people would be wearing masks, and at every single shop
yep,
that you go into, there was alcoholic sprays that you could use for your hands, even at train stations. So they
mm,
are managing it really well over there, and
yep,
everyone abides by the guidelines. Whereas in countries like Australia, there's no guidelines, and there's a bit of that arrogance, like, oh, we'll be all right, she'll be all right. Let's not worry about it until it happens,
mm,
and basically when it happens, it's too late. So
yep, yep.
um,
Well, they've,
Japan, I
they've
don't.
certainly bought all the toilet rolls, mate. If you got a roll that you can send me up, mate, I'm getting a bit low.
Yeah, there was no shortage of toilet rolls over in Japan. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You reckon? I was only thinking, but I can't imagine they could do this. But I'm thinking they'd still make a lot of money out of TV rights, and all the athletes still get to perform. Would they ever consider doing it? You reckon without a crowd?
I I reckon that's a possibility. Yeah,
Mm,
definitely.
mm,
I think if they've been pressured to try and cancel the event, I think they should mainly look towards doing that. They'd still get lots of money out of TV rights and stuff
mm,
like that. So,
mm.
and there's talk about other professional sports playing games in front of no crowd and whatever else. So,
That's right.
I think
Yeah.
that could be a possibility and
Mm,
something that they might have to consider.
yeah.
Hopefully, they don't have to consider it and it doesn't get that bad. But
Mm, mm.
yeah, I'd hope that they'd consider that first before trying to cancel it.
Correct. Yeah. Or second best option would be put it on next year. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but then if they did that, um, the people who qualify, do they still get the opportunity? And
Yeah. I guess there's all
uh,
that, isn't there? Yeah.
does it reset the qualification period?
Mm,
And if
mm.
that's the case, are we still having those issues of races being cancelled because of coronavirus still lingering? And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
too complicated for me to think
Yeah.
that far ahead.
Yep, yep. Well, you've got the qualifying time. I won't say you got the singlet yet, but you're looking pretty good. So you've done all you
Yeah.
can do at this stage, mate. The rest is out of your control.
Yep,
I was
that's
thinking
it.
about, might not be sort of privy with this info, but Jack Rayner's, he got that stress fracture after New York, and he's only just practically started jogging a few weeks ago. Would he, even though he's got that qualifying time, would he have to sort of prove his fitness before he got the singlet, or how would that work?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure. I think in past teams they've made people prove their fitness.
Mm.
Um, I guess the times that they've set for people to prove their fitness previously, I think Jack Rayner could do that half fitness and walk it in the park. So
Yeah. Okay.
I think they've had times where people have to prove their fitness and maybe run a 30 minutes and 30-second 10K or something like that.
Oh,
And
okay. Right. Right.
I think that those boys would do that in a threshold. So I don't
Mm.
think he'd have an issue. If it was a half marathon, then I think the times that they used to set, he'd still walk that in the park. But then again, it's going to be taken away from his training
Yeah.
and his preparation. So ideally, you wouldn't want that to be the case. And
Yeah.
I think what they'd probably have to do is just maybe look at his training and go, yeah, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make you change your training or change your preparation to try and run a qualifying thing to prove your fitness. So
Yeah. Okay.
let's just hope that, yeah, hopefully everything's great and he's
Yep.
getting back to some pretty good shape right now, and that's not the case.
Yep.
So he
Yep.
doesn't have to worry about that type of thing. So
Yep. For
yeah.
sure. All right, mate. From now till I guess end of August, September, all going well. What's the training look like? Are you sort of I mean, it's going to be warm over there, so back in the heat chamber, maybe some more altitude training.
Um, uh, yeah, I'll do a bit of heat, a bit of altitude.
Mm.
Still trying to work out how I would do it.
Mm.
I think I'll probably have to have a bit of time off work and go to America or something like that, do
Mm.
some
Mm.
altitude and some heat training, or
Mm. Mm.
or maybe look at another option.
Mm. Have you done like
Because
Boulder or Flagstaff over the years?
I've done Flagstaff a couple of times, and that's just incredible going.
Yeah.
I've also been to Boulder too, and
Yep.
both towns are incredible to go train.
Yep.
I kind of feel that Boulder's the very sporty town where
Mm.
everyone seems to be fit and healthy and outdoors, and Flagstaff's just got a million trails that you can do, and a lot of the elites go there because it's a pretty good venue too. So they're
Yep.
both
Okay.
really good options.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I'll have to look to see um, how long I'll do as a stint overseas, and
Yep.
I don't know. Who knows? They've got a ban to and from Europe at the moment, so maybe
Yeah.
there's going to be a ban to and from Australia soon. So
Mm.
maybe
Mm.
that's not going to be an option. So
Mm. Mm.
maybe I'll have to do a few sessions or training runs per week down at the local university's heat chambers.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I did that last time for Rio Olympics, so that could be another option.
Sure.
But ideally, Melbourne winters not motivating to get out there and do runs, especially when you're coming back from work and
Yep.
you're getting out doing a run and it's 6 or 6:30 and it's wet, miserable, cold. No one else is out there running around the river, and you're doing it in the dark and getting home at, I don't know, 8:30, 9 p.m. at night, and yeah, just doing your standard cycle.
Mm.
I kind of feel that I probably need a 4 week or 5 week period away from work and where I'm training like the other professionals do.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, that'll give myself the best option to run
Mm.
well and do the best for the Australian team if I have a
Mm.
bit of time off. Yeah.
Yep. Did you bring your boss back a gift from Japan, mate?
I think the result is the gift.
Awesome.
Yeah, they gave me time off work, and
Mm. Mm.
I'm super appreciative of that. So,
Yeah.
and I think they're super happy with my results. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, they've been good supports of mine. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. What about any races? Any of the normal fun runs, or city surf, or I don't know, Gold Coast half, or anything like that?
Um, yeah, I'll look at those ones.
Yep.
I think I'll probably.
Sydney Morning Herald
I'm
half,
doing.
maybe.
Yeah, I'll do that one again, and I hear a rumor that Brett's doing it, so
Oh, awesome. Yep.
it's looking good for a fast race.
Mm. Mm.
So I'll look at maybe doing run for the kids in a couple of weeks' time.
Yep.
Just start getting back into it again.
Yep.
do that. Then it'd probably be Sydney Morning Herald half marathon would be the next race.
Yep.
After that, the Launceston 10's back on, so
Yep.
I'll be looking to go down and do that, try and get a fast 10K. And I guess if everything's still on for the Olympics, then I feel that Gold Coast half marathon should be a good solid hit out towards going to the Olympics. So I'll be looking at that race too.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. And a great time of year. Round 1 kicks off next Thursday night at the G. The Blues up against the mighty Premiers, the Tigers. I was thinking, mate, am I going to see Liam out there tossing the coin, mate? You know, like it would be great. You know, just get a bit of focus back on us runners.
Oh, you'd never see that ever.
Oh, never say never, mate. Never say never. Are you going to get out there?
I'll be at the event. Yeah. I've got tickets to the game, so I bought some tickets. I'm kind of concerned that the game might be done towards. There might not be a crowd there, so
wow. Okay.
Who knows? Who knows how bad it's going to get in the next week or so, and the measures that they'll put in. So I was confident about the game before we started doing pre-season games, so I'm not confident that will go too well.
Yeah. It's always a great night to kick off the season, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have the footy back.
It is, mate. It is. I get a bit more tired on Sunday mornings now, but I love the footy. Oh, mate, look, thanks so much, mate, for giving up your time again, chatting once again. Best prep, mate, for Tokyo. And
cheers.
Huge congrats once again, Liam. Just we're also happy for you, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for that.
No worries, mate. And we'll chat again, possibly post-Olympics, mate.
Yep, fingers crossed.
For sure, mate. All right, Liam. All the best, mate.
Cheers. All right, see ya.
See you, mate.